Hey, Larken Rose here. So we have an obvious example of divide and conquer playing out right now. In this country, just as blatant and obvious as it could possibly be, but I'm still going to bother to describe it and explain why it went that way for those people not accustomed to thinking about such things, which is most decent people, because most decent people aren't sociopaths sitting around finding ways to create violence between people and to grab power for themselves. So most people, if they're living their lives and minding their own business, it doesn't really occur to them to be on the lookout for people being complete sociopaths. But that's how government functions. So I'm going to quickly spell this out. It's very simple. It's very obvious. Lots of the people who watch my channel would already know this and could explain it themselves. But for those who don't, so Trump has been harping on illegal immigration. Harp, harp, scare, scare, fear, fear. They're all murderers. They're all scary. They're all rah, rah, rah. Ridiculously overblown fear-mongering. And then pushing for widespread authoritarian thuggery, not just against actual murderers and super bad people who happen to have walked over the line without the permission of the ruling class, but just anybody. Intentionally going authoritarian, intentionally being loud about it. Now, here's an important thing to keep in mind. Deportations and ICE being violent has been going on for a long time. It happened under Biden. It happened under Obama. They deported millions of people with their fascist BS. You didn't hear about it because it didn't serve anyone's political agenda at the time. Then along comes Trump and does the same thing, but has to make a huge show of it, has to harp on the fear-mongering. Why? Why not just continue, well, we're finding them and deporting them? That was already happening. Why make this big show? Why try to scare the crap out of everybody and think that anybody walking over the line is like a cannibal or something? Why bother doing that? It's to divide and conquer. And right now, today, we are seeing the plans coming to fruition, exactly what they wanted. Because if Trump had said, hey, there's illegal immigration, we don't think it's good for the economy, like if he had been sort of rational, not moral, because border controls are inherently statist and immoral, but if he just sort of said, yeah, it's sort of a problem, we're looking into it, okay, we're going to do that. Why would he intentionally push the thing and publicize it of, you don't get due process? And we're going to do these huge roundups of all sorts of people, and we're going to loudly do it and throw it in everybody's face constantly and demonize this huge swath of people and then make a big police state show of rounding them up and shipping them off to slave camps in other countries and have Gestapo Barbie doing photo ops about it. Why do that? Like, immigration laws were already there. Deportations were already happening. Why push this show in front of the people? It had nothing to do with wanting to deport people. That was already happening. And it could just have continued. It had to do with scaring a bunch of people and go, yeah, we need this widespread authoritarian arbitrary power. And you had a bunch of ignorant, gullible Trumpite idiots literally cheering for absolutely unlimited, arbitrary, centralized, dictatorial power where a president can just say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And if any judge says, you don't really have the constitutional power to do that on your own, then we'll call out our troops and all the Trumpites in unison will say, this is a threat to democracy, because judges are saying Trump can't just do anything he damn well pleases. There are still laws you're supposed to kind of be abiding by. But there's a reason he went so overboard. There's a reason for all this spectacle. There's a reason for the constant press releases and crap from, who's that demented looking, Nazi looking characters I don't know if he's the head of DHS or ICE or whatever he is. Just creepy, power-happy piece of crap. There's a reason to throw his ugly mug out in front of people all the time and put on a show of force. We're gonna crack down on these illegals. And it has absolutely nothing to do with immigration. And it has absolutely nothing to do with crime. And I've pointed this out before. If you're like, this guy killed 73 people, we're gonna deport him. Why don't you, imprison him? Because I'm pretty sure it's still illegal to murder a bunch of people. Why deport him? Because that's the authoritarian power Trump, on behalf of the ruling class, was trying to make excuses to expand so that they can use it on you. Maybe to deport you, but at least to intrude into your life and train you to think that warrantless searches of homes, maybe that's necessary because of those illegals. So they push and push this ridiculous authoritarian crap, and a number of courts, including Trump-appointed judges, push back and go, you can't just randomly do whatever you want with zero due process, you psycho. Slightly paraphrasing the court rulings, that's basically what the Supreme Court said. He already knew that. They all already knew that. Why would they hype it up so much? If they just continued deportations the way they had always been, nobody would have noticed. I mean, it would still be immoral state as BS. People who believe in freedom would notice like we did before. But it wouldn't have been this huge show. Why hype the crap out of this? Why just throw due process out the window and act like complete fascists? To piss some of you off while the rest of you are cheering for that crap. It was designed, it had nothing to do with crime, nothing to do with immigration. It was designed to pit you against each other. To make some people go, this is horrible and unjust. You're giving no due process. You're whisking people off to foreign prison camps with no trial, no hearing. Some of them are U.S. citizens. And then you're like, why hype that so that those people are super upset and this is not okay? And the Trumpites are making excuses for it. Well, as immigrants are super scary, so whatever needs to be done, blah, 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 blah. This was 100% a fabricated division designed to make you hate each other. It had nothing to do with crime. It had nothing to do with immigration. It never had anything to do with any of that. And now we see the ultimate culmination. ICE had gotten so ridiculously fascist, barging in different places, that there started to be protests. There started to be resistance. And then in LA, when they're doing their police state dystopian Nazi bullshit in public, way overboard on purpose, a bunch of people are like, this is too much. We need to go protest. We need to get in their way. We need to stop them because this is outrageous, which, by the way, it is. But why would Trump and his fellow power-happy thugs want that to happen? Why would they want riots? Why would they want resistance? Don't they want everybody to go along with them? No, because you can't divide and conquer if all the people are on the same side. You have to create a division between the people. And they did. He wanted the riots. He wanted to push it so far that some people pushed back so he could do what he did today, which is call in the National Guard. Posse Comitatus out the window. Now you have militarized, just dystopian-style police state bullshit going on the streets of U.S. as a direct result of his completely overboard fascist lunacy in the name of protecting us from illegals. You gotta do it. They're not bringing their best. That's what this was designed for. So that now we could have the spectacle on TV of a bunch of Americans fighting against a bunch of Americans. That's why he did it. And Trump's not the mastermind. He's just an idiot puppet. And if you think he's the mastermind, you cannot make sense of anything he does. You'll just be making stupid excuses the whole time. But if you realize, oh, he's a puppet sent out to divide and conquer. That's what he's for. That's what Biden was for. Kamala, Bush, Obama, doesn't matter. They need to pit people against people. This is a 100% unnecessary, fabricated conflict going on in Los Angeles right now. It was not in any way motivated by trying to lower crime or deport scary, horrible, violent people. It was just fabricated to create a violent conflict between Americans and Americans. And now we see that happening. And now they're calling in the military. They're calling in the National Guard. So we can have big riots of people going, this is unjust. And a bunch of trigger-happy psychos going, you will back down. We will enforce the law. And of course, Bondi and Patel and all those other power-happy Nazi fucks are out there talking about, we will crack down on anybody who blah, 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 blah. Well, who's that? Who are you cracking down on? Mostly people who were really upset that you were doing arbitrary, unconstitutional, fascist bullshit. And you did that to upset them so they would do this so you could crack down on them. This is not new. And if you're thinking, oh, that's an outrageous conspiracy theory, this particular basic tactic has been around for centuries. And tyrants all over the place have described exactly this. You need to push them and push them and push them until they resist and then go, this is why we need more power and control. We need more cops. We need more authoritarian. We need more laws. Because look at these people disobeying. Why are they disobeying? Because we were being total fascists. Why were you being total fascists? So they would disobey and we would have an excuse to escalate the violence and escalate the authoritarian police state bullshit. And the fact that there are still Trumpites who don't understand this and don't realize what they cheered into power, what they helped to make happen. It's just pathetic. This is so predictable. It's so basic. It's so obvious. It's happened so many times in history. The violent conflict you see going on in LA is 100% unnecessary, 100% a result of Trump and his fellow stooges pushing their authoritarian bullshit with the intention of making this happen so they could look like, oh, we have to crack down on this. I mean, explaining this, I know a lot of people haven't thought about these things at all, and so, like, if you're new to this, I'm going to try to be a little bit patient. Do you not get how many of the scary terrorist organizations in the world were literally funded and created by the U.S. government? Or by the government of Israel, the warmonger psychopaths over there too. And often jointly between Israeli psychos and U.S. psychos. Do you not get how many times they have bravely fought against these scary, horrible terrorist organizations that they built? Hamas, ISIS, and it happened in the Central America a zillion times too. We're going to fabricate an enemy as an excuse to have a big military and go make a show of force. Well, why don't you just not create a problem? Because then they don't have an excuse for more authoritarian power. That's been the U.S. foreign policy for all of my lifetime and all of yours. Fabricating and creating conflict around the world to have an excuse for warmongering bullshit and more authoritarianism, including authoritarianism at home. The TSA treating everybody here like criminals and, well, it's the war on terror. We have to be able to spy on everybody. Surveillance state that Trump has just shoved forward as hard as he could. It's completely Orwellian Palantir bullshit. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up Palantir. Go to James Corbett's channel, and because he gets into depth and talks about all these things. If you're like, what are you talking about? Just ridiculous Terminator, Skynet style surveillance state bullshit that Trump is pushing himself. Why? I mean, what's the excuse for it? Because scary criminals. Huh. And who made those scary criminals? Oh, you did. Just like the U.S. military made all the terrorists we're supposed to be scared of now. Sometimes just literally made them, like armed them, funded them, created them, trained them, literally in a lot of cases. In the Middle East, Central America, this has been going on for ages. And this is just the same thing, but in the country. Well, we need something to crack down on. So we need to instigate people until they fight back. And then we can go, look, scary terrorists and criminals, because they're resisting ICE, those fascist, psychopathic, arbitrary, lunatic Nazis. Yeah, imagine that. If you're a complete freaking gang of heartless, evil Nazis, eventually people resist you. And then the ruling class can go, oh, look at these criminals resisting our brave men and women in law enforcement. We better call in the military. And the fact that Americans are so ignorant of history and so ignorant of politics and so ignorant of how these things have gone around the world for all of human history, the fact that they still fall for it is just pathetic. And the number of Trumpites who would be able to recognize what was happening if Biden did something like this, or Obama said, we're going to confiscate a bunch of guns. And then a bunch of people said, no, you're not. We're going to resist. Oh, look at these resistors. That's why we need a lot of authoritarian power. Every Republican would go, yeah, you just use that as an excuse to ramp up your authoritarian power by pushing these people too far and trying to disarm them. But when their Mango Mussolini does it, suddenly they're complete frickin' idiots. And they can't recognize the most basic method of divide and conquer through all of history. Fabricate a problem, create a conflict between your own people, push people to the point where they push back, and then go, look, they pushed back. And I mean, holy crap, the ruling class in Israel is like the poster child for that. Oh, these people, they resorted to violence. Maybe because you're mass murdering their children? Might that have maybe pushed some of them to that point? And before anybody goes, oh, you're choosing sides. No, I'm not. Anybody who victimizes innocents in the name of some greater cause is a piece of shit. Okay? There are lots of pieces of shit in the Israeli government. There are more pieces of shit in the U.S. government just because it's bigger. There are pieces of shit who fight against the U.S. government. There are pieces of shit who fight against the Israeli government. Anybody who will victimize innocents to forward their agenda and their political goals is a piece of crap. And that includes Netanyahu, and includes Trump, and included Obama, and Bush, and Clinton, and Biden. Would have included Kamala. They all do this. And they all play this game. Right now, Israel and the ruling class of Israel happens to just be a glaring example of playing the victim after being just mass murdering frickin' psychopaths. But the U.S. government's done plenty of that too. And they're doing it right now. And now Posse Comitatus is out the window. For those who don't know, you're not really supposed to use the military for domestic law enforcement. But I'm sure his excuse will be, no, this is to quell riots and insurrections. Well, why was there a riot and an insurrection? Because we were being complete fascists and ignoring the law and just being Nazis and shipping people off to foreign countries with no due process. Oh, huh. So maybe you made people pissed off and gave them a reason to be pissed off and resistant to your police state bullshit. And then when they resisted, you used that as an excuse to push for more authoritarian power and less freedom. How long are you going to fall for this? Whoever you voted for that. They all do that. And they do it to different degrees, and they do it in different ways. They'll create a scapegoat. They'll stomp on them if anybody resists. Oh, look at these. I mean, this goes back forever. Back when racial discrimination in this country was just overtly nasty, violent, forced segregation and things. We're going to treat you like crap. And if any of you resist, then we're going to go, look, they resisted. Now we have to like slaughter a bunch of them. It's like they resisted you being an evil piece of shit. And they were right to do so. This is the oldest trick in the statist book. And the fact that any American is so ignorant that they don't understand how this works, they still don't understand how this works. And a lot of them are still cheering for, well, this is why we need more authoritarian power. Just like 9/11. Scary thing happened. Better militarize the crap out of everything. Throw freedom and privacy out the window for all Americans and treat everybody like criminals. Yeah, how many terrorists has the TSA caught? None. 0. How many terrorist plots have they foiled? Well, none. How many Americans have they treated like criminals and treated like crap, and the Americans went along with it? Billions and millions and millions and millions and millions. Anybody who's ever flown on a plane in the last couple of decades. The fact that this still needs to be spelled out, and the fact that a trick this simple and obvious still works is just a testament to how pathetically uninformed and unthinking and uneducated so many Americans are. And it would be nice if that would change, because all this violent crap you see going on in LA and around the world and all over the frickin' place, it stops when the people stop falling for the political psychopaths and their games of divide and conquer. You are the fuel for that crap every time you fall for it and you call for a government solution. When you stop falling for that shit, it stops happening.